The boy burst out of the woods like a ghost chased by thunder. Mud streaked his face. Blood soaked through one torn sock. His breath came out in sharp, panicked bursts. One shoe gone, both eyes wide. He stumbled into the middle of Highway 47, arms flailing, headlights slicing through the curtain of rain. Brakes screamed. Tires hissed. And a wall of chrome and leather shuddered to a stop just yards away. 12 motorcycles fanned out across the slick asphalt, black jackets, polished steel, exhaust curling into the cold night air. Engines idled low, growling like beasts barely held back. The lead rider killed his engine first. The others followed, the rumble fading into the hollow hiss of rain on metal. Jax Mercer swung off his bike. Broad-shouldered, calm-eyed, a man who carried his authority like gravity. Not the kind that scared you, the kind that steadied you. He removed his helmet and stepped forward, rain beating off his leather jacket. The boy froze, chest heaving, eyes wild with terror. "Hey," Jax said, voice low, careful. He raised one gloved hand like he was talking to a spooked animal. "You okay, kid?" The boy shook his head so hard his wet curls slapped against his forehead. "He's still in there," he gasped. "My dad, he's still in there!" Jax's eyes flicked past the boy, toward the black wall of pine and mist. Thunder rolled low, far off. Lightning flashed, and in that heartbeat of white light, Jax saw it, a trail of broken branches leading into the woods. Tire marks, fresh, deep enough to belong to a truck. Leon Hayes, second in command, spat out his cigar and squinted. "Looks like a pickup went off the shoulder." Jax turned to his crew, 12 men in rain-soaked leather, their patches glinting with a silver hawk over red wings. "The Iron Hawks. Kill the lights," Jax said. "Grab the med kit. We're going in." No one questioned him. They never did. 12 engines shut off at once, leaving only the rain, and the boy's sobs, soft and desperate under it. The sound of boots on wet asphalt filled the quiet. Jax crouched down beside the boy. "What's your name?" "Marcus," the boy whispered, shivering. "How old are you, Marcus?" 15. Jax pulled off his gloves and put a steady hand on the kid's shoulder. "You're safe now, all right? Just breathe for me. What happened in there?" The boy's throat tightened. "They came after us. I thought they were gone, but then they found us again." Jax's brows furrowed. "Who?" Marcus looked toward the woods. "The men from the scrapyard," he said. His voice cracked on the word men. The bikers exchanged glances. Everyone in 2 counties knew about that place. Ruston's scrapyard, where cars disappeared and trouble was born. "Your dad worked there?" Jax asked. Marcus nodded. He tried to stop them. They were loading something into a truck. He said it was wrong. "Then they—" The boy's voice broke. "They hit him. I ran." A silence settled over the road, heavy, humming with anger. Jax's jaw flexed once, slow and deliberate. Then he stood. "Tank, stay with the boy," he said. "Rest of you, flashlights on. Let's move." They crossed the ditch single file, mud sucking at their boots. Branches slapped wet against their jackets. The air grew colder, thicker, the kind of silence that carried danger in its roots. Jax led the way, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Every few steps he scanned for signs, tire ruts, footprints, anything. Then Leon's voice came low behind him. "Got something." They found it 20 yards in. A rusted pickup, nose buried in the mud, passenger door hanging open. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. The headlights flickered weakly, casting ghostly shadows across the trees. Inside, blood, not fresh, but enough to make your stomach twist. And just beyond the truck, a man, lying face down in the brush. Jax was beside him in seconds. He rolled the man gently onto his back. Black, mid-40s. His shirt torn open, his ribs rising shallow under the weight of each labored breath. "Alive, though barely. Sir, can you hear me?" Jax said, leaning close. The man's eyelids fluttered. "Marcus," he rasped. "He's safe," Jax said. "Your boy's safe." The man tried to speak again, voice thin as paper. "They took it from the yard." "What did they take?" But the man's hand twitched, reaching toward the truck instead. There, half buried in the mud, a small metal badge. Jax picked it up, wiping it clean with his thumb. A serpent wrapped around a gear. Rustin's scrapyard logo. Leon's voice came quiet behind him. Guess the boy wasn't lying? Jax looked down at the man again. We're getting you out of here, he said. Hang on. He pressed the medkit against the wound while another hawk radioed for help. Rainwater mixed with blood, washing dark trails down the man's chest. The ambulance took 15 minutes to arrive. 15 long minutes of steady pressure, whispered reassurance, and the rhythmic hum of thunder rolling over the woods. When the sirens finally echoed through the trees, Jax exhaled for the first time in what felt like forever. He stood as paramedics took over, stepping back into the rain with mud on his hands and anger in his heart. Marcus ran toward them the moment he saw the stretcher. "Dad!" he cried. Jax caught him gently before he could get too close. "They're taking him to Crestfield General," he said softly. "He's breathing. That's what matters." The boy's tears mixed with rain. "Thank you." Jax looked at the flashing red lights painting the wet trees. Then his gaze drifted to the serpent emblem in his hand, silver catching the glow like something poisonous. He slipped it into his pocket. "Don't thank me yet, kid," he murmured. "This isn't over." As the ambulance pulled away, Jax's crew stood silent behind him, engines idling again, low, steady, ready. The night had changed. This wasn't just another Sunday ride. When the last flash of red disappeared around the bend, Jax swung a leg over his bike and looked toward the woods one more time. The rain was easing up now, but the air felt heavier, like the storm had decided to stay. He could still hear the boy's voice echoing in his mind. "They found us again." Jax started his engine. The others followed. 12 bikes roared back to life under the bruised sky, their headlights slicing through the mist. But this time they weren't riding home. They were hunting the truth. The diner smelled like coffee and wet leather. Rain still clung to the morning, fog curling around the parking lot like smoke from a tired fire. Inside, the Iron Hawks sat in their usual corner booth, boots muddy, jackets creased, eyes heavy from a night without sleep. The bell above the door jingled softly. Marcus stepped in. The boy looked smaller in the light. Clean now, though his sock still had a tear. Jax's spare leather jacket hung off him like armor borrowed from a giant. He hesitated at the threshold, scanning the room. Tommy, the diner owner, gave him a nod. "You're safe here, son. Sit down." Marcus slid into the booth beside Jax. The steam from a fresh cup of cocoa fogged his lashes. He wrapped his hands around it like it might keep him from shaking. For a long time, nobody spoke. The hum of the jukebox filled the silence, soft country tune from some forgotten decade. Then Jax said quietly, "Tell us what happened, Marcus." "From the start," the boy swallowed, his voice trembling. "My dad worked at Rustin's scrapyard. Just fixing old cars, nothing bad. But about a month ago, he told me something wasn't right. He said the owner, Mr. Rustin, started bringing in trucks at night. Big ones, no plates, always covered in tarps." Leon leaned forward, elbows on the table. "What kind of trucks?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know. But Dad said they smelled like gasoline. He thought it was stolen shipments, maybe engines, maybe worse." Tank, the biggest of the Hawks, crossed his arms. "And he tried to stop them?" "Yeah," Marcus whispered. "He told Rustin he was going to report it. But that night, men showed up at our house, told him to back off. Said accidents happen," his voice cracked. "So we packed and left. We've been sleeping in the truck since Thursday. He said we'd go to my aunt's in Louisiana once the road's cleared." Jax's jaw tightened. "And last night?" Marcus's eyes filled. "We stopped near the woods because the rain got too heavy. I thought he was sleeping. Then I heard engines, not bikes, trucks. He jumped out to check and told me to hide. I saw them pull him out. I heard him yell." The boy covered his mouth. "I ran. I didn't look back." Silence swallowed the diner. Even the jukebox seemed to hush itself. Jax leaned back slowly, rubbing his temple. He'd heard too many stories that started this way. Small-town corruption, men who thought poor folks didn't matter. "Your dad's name?" he asked gently. "James Carter," Leon blinked. "Carter? As in Carter's garage? The guy who used to tow cars for half the county?" Marcus nodded. That's him. Jax exchanged a look with Leon, recognition, then anger. James Carter was one of the good ones, the kind who'd fix your flat and refuse payment if you had kids in the back seat. Jax's tone hardened. Where's that scrapyard? Old highway near mile marker 22, Marcus said. But you can't go there. They'll kill you like they... Jax stopped him with a calm hand on his shoulder. No one's killing anyone today, kid. We're just asking questions. The boy's eyes filled with tears. You don't get it. They don't care who sees. My dad said they had cops paid off. Leon exhaled through his nose. Sounds about right for Rustin. Half the sheriff's department owes him favors. The group went quiet again. Forks clinked softly in distant tables. The smell of bacon and old coffee somehow made the air heavier. Finally, Jax said, All right, listen, your dad's in the hospital. We'll check on him first, then we'll handle the rest. Marcus nodded, but his hands kept trembling. I just don't understand. Why would they hurt him? He never did nothing wrong. Jax's voice softened. Sometimes, kid, good men make bad men nervous. He said it like someone who'd learned it the hard way. By noon, they were at Crestfield General Hospital. Rain clouds broke apart overhead, sunlight pushing through like it was trying to remember what warmth felt like. Jax walked through the automatic doors with Marcus beside him. Nurses glanced up. The sight of 6 bikers in leather wasn't exactly subtle, but something in their faces softened when they saw the boy. At the nurse's desk, Jax spoke quietly. James Carter, brought in last night from Route 47. The nurse checked the chart. He's stable, she said. Concussion, cracked ribs, but he's lucky. He'll need rest. Marcus let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Can I see him? Just for a minute. Jax placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Go ahead. We'll be right here. They watched through the small window as Marcus entered the hospital room. His father's eyes fluttered open. Weak, but awake. The boy leaned close, holding his hand, and Jax could almost hear the whispered words through the glass. I'm okay, son. Leon spoke softly behind him. You think the kid's telling the whole truth? I think he's telling what he knows, Jax said. The rest, we'll find out soon enough. Rustin's a dangerous man. Jax nodded. So are we. When Marcus came out, his face looked lighter. But the relief didn't last long. He handed Jax a folded piece of paper. Dad said to give you this. Said he found it the night before. Jax unfolded it. An invoice, handwritten, smudged with grease. At the top, a date. At the bottom, a signature. R. Rustin. In the middle, one-line item. Model X9 engine core. 1 unit. Special handling. Leon frowned. Model X9? That's military grade. Jax's eyes narrowed. Looks like Rustin's not just moving stolen cars anymore. He folded the paper and slipped it into his jacket. Get the boys ready, he said quietly. We ride tonight. Marcus looked up, fear flickering again. Are you gonna hurt them? Jax crouched down to eye level, his tone steady. No, son. We're just gonna make sure they never hurt anyone else again. The boy nodded slowly, trusting him the way scared people trust calm voices. Outside, the sun broke free at last, streaking gold across the parking lot, glinting off chrome and windshields. The Hawks stood by their bikes, engines ready, eyes sharp. Jax put his helmet on, but glanced back once more at Marcus. Stay with your dad. We'll take it from here. The boy's voice was soft. Will you come back? Jax paused. Count on it. Engines roared to life, 12 at once, rumbling like thunder preparing to strike. The hospital windows rattled as they pulled onto the highway, sunlight catching on their steel wings. Behind them, Marcus stood by the window, clutching his father's hand, watching the Iron Hawks disappear into the horizon. He didn't know what they'd find, but somehow he believed they'd make it right, and deep down, so did Jax. Even if it meant riding straight into the heart of something dark. The forest swallowed them whole, branches clawed at leather jackets. Rain slicked the earth, turning roots into traps and shadows into shapes that moved when they shouldn't. The boy stumbled more than once, but Jax caught him each time. Steady hands, steady voice. You're okay, kid. Just breathe. I heard him screaming. the boy said between gasps. Then it stopped. I ran to the road. I didn't know what else to do. Behind them, Leon grunted. You did the right thing, son. You found the right people. The road angels had seen wrecks before, twisted metal, drunk drivers, broken bones. But something about the way this kid trembled cut deeper. It wasn't just fear. It was something heavier. Something like guilt. Jax noticed it too. He slowed their pace, studying the boy through the beam of his flashlight. What's your name? Eli? How old are you, Eli? 13. And your dad? Eli hesitated. He works construction. Sometimes he drinks. But he's good. He didn't mean. The words tangled in his throat. Leon's jaw tightened. They all knew what that meant. A minute later, the smell hit them. Gasoline and smoke, faint, but enough to quicken every heartbeat. Over there, Jax said, pointing toward the glow flickering through the trees. They broke into a jog, boots sloshing through mud. The sound of rain was drowned by the crackle of fire. When they reached the clearing, the sight made even the toughest of them go still. A pickup truck lay crumpled against an oak, front end smashed like paper. Steam hissed from the hood. Flames licked one side, hungry and growing. Dad! Eli screamed, lunging forward. Jax caught him by the shoulder. Wait, we don't know if the tank's gonna— Please! He's still alive! Jax didn't argue. He tossed his gloves and sprinted toward the wreck, Leon right behind him. The fire spat back as they got closer, heat searing through their soaked clothes. Jax peered inside, and there he was. A man slumped over the steering wheel, blood running from his forehead. The passenger door was jammed. Leon, crowbar! Jax barked. Metal screeched. Sparks flew. The smell of burning rubber filled the air. The road angels worked like they'd done this 1,000 times. No panic, no noise, just movement. One man doused the flames with a blanket. Another broke the glass with his boot. Eli watched, fists clenched, whispering something under his breath that sounded like a prayer. Finally, the door gave way. Jax reached in, grabbed the man by the shoulders, and pulled. For a moment, the man's head lolled, lifeless. Then he coughed. He's breathing, Jax shouted. They laid him on the ground, covering him with a jacket. Leon checked his pulse. Weak, but there. Eli dropped beside his father, sobbing. Daddy, please wake up. Jax knelt, hand on the boy's back. He's gonna be okay, son. You hear me? He's got you and he's got us. The rain softened, like the storm itself was catching its breath. And that's when Jax noticed something. A long rope coiled near the truck bed, frayed, muddy, and snapped in the middle. He followed its trail with his flashlight, and it led to something darker. Behind the truck, a second set of tire tracks cut off the road, smaller, like from an SUV. But no vehicle, no driver. Just skid marks and broken glass. Jax's gut tightened. Leon! We got company before the crash. Leon followed his gaze and swore under his breath. You think this wasn't an accident? I think somebody wanted this man off the road. A low rumble of thunder rolled overhead. Eli looked up, confused. What do you mean? Jax hesitated, then said softly, Nothing you gotta worry about right now, kid. Let's get your dad to safety first. But as he said it, something in the woods creaked. A branch snapped. All 12 bikers turned toward the sound. Their flashlights cut through the rain, beams landing on a shadow just beyond the tree line, a figure. Watching, then it vanished. Jax's voice dropped low. No one leaves. We're not alone out here. The road angels formed a circle around Eli and his father. Engines still cooling, hearts still pounding. Somewhere out in the dark, a secret was waiting. And they'd just stepped into it. The rain had slowed to a whisper, but every drop felt louder than breath. 12 bikers stood still, engines dead, flashlights scanning the dark, their leather jackets slick and steaming from the heat of the fire. Jax's voice cut through the quiet. Leon, keep the kid close. 2 of you. Check the ridge. Copy, came the low replies. Eli's father lay half-conscious, mumbling words no one could quite make out. His hand twitched toward his son, but his eyes never opened. Jax crouched beside him. Hang in there, brother. We got you. Then came another sound. A shuffle, soft but deliberate, from somewhere behind the wreck. Jax motioned. 2 road angels fanned out, moving slow, flashlight steady. "Whoever's out there," Jax called, voice even but firm. "You got 10 seconds to step into the light. Don't make me come find you." For a long beat, nothing. Just wind and dripping leaves, then movement. A figure stepped out from between the trees, hooded, soaked to the bone. "Hands raised. I'm not here to hurt nobody," the stranger said, voice shaking. "Please. I didn't know the boy was in the truck." Every man tensed. Jax took a slow step forward. "Say that again." The stranger lowered his hood. A man in his 40s, thin, face marked by guilt and grime. His eyes darted between the boy and the truck like ghosts were clawing at his conscience. It was supposed to scare him," he stammered. "That's all. Just a warning. His old man owed people money." Leon's cigar dropped into the mud. "You ran him off the road?" The man nodded weakly. "Didn't mean for it to flip. Didn't even know the kid was inside." Eli stared at him, trembling. "You did this?" The man opened his mouth, but before he could speak, a noise split the night. An engine. Faint at first, then closer. A car tearing down the back road they'd come from. Jax's instincts snapped into place. "Lights out, now!" In seconds, the clearing went dark. The only light came from the dying fire under the hood of the wrecked truck, casting long orange shadows across the trees. The stranger froze. "They're coming," he whispered. "Who?" Jax demanded. "The ones I work for." Every biker drew in a slow, cold breath. Leon cursed under his breath. Jax moved fast, one hand gripping the stranger's collar. "Then you're gonna tell me everything!" He dragged the man closer to the wreck, keeping his voice low. "Who sent you?" The man shook his head violently. "You don't understand. They don't stop. If they see me talking to you, then we'd better make sure they don't," Leon cut in, pulling his pistol from his belt. Not to use, but to show he wasn't bluffing. Headlights swept across the trees. An SUV burst through the brush, skidding to a halt 20 yards away. Doors opened. Men got out, 3 of them, armed, confident. "Get the boy down," Jax ordered. 2 bikers shielded Eli, pulling him behind a fallen log. The first man from the SUV shouted, "Where's Curtis?" Jax looked at the trembling stranger. "That's you?" Curtis nodded miserably. "All right then," Jax said softly, standing tall as the beams hit his jacket. "Guess I'll do the talking." He stepped into the light, leather coat soaked, road angel's patch glinting like a badge of defiance. The leader of the newcomers sneered. "You're not part of this, old man. Walk away." "See, that's where you're wrong," Jax said, voice calm as rain. "You hurt a father and scared a child on my road. That makes it my business." The man laughed, short, sharp, humorless. "You got no idea who you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Leon muttered behind him. Engines roared to life. Every road angel started their bike at once, 12 throats of thunder filling the clearing. The headlights cut through the dark like vengeance itself. The men from the SUV hesitated. The noise alone was enough to make the ground tremble. Jax took one slow step forward. "You got 5 seconds to leave that weapon on the ground and drive away. After that, the storm's yours." No one spoke. For a second it was just rain and revving metal, a standoff carved in lightning. Then the leader spat on the ground, tossed his gun aside, and backed toward the car. "Fine. You win tonight." The SUV's tires spun mud as it reversed out of the clearing and vanished into the woods. When silence returned, Eli's sobs broke it. Jax let out a long breath. "Leon, call it in. We'll need an ambulance and a tow." Leon nodded, already on the radio. Eli ran to his father's side again. "He's still breathing," he said, desperate. Jax crouched down, putting a hand on the boy's shoulder. "He's a fighter, just like you." Curtis, the stranger, stood shaking, eyes downcast. "You don't understand. They'll come back." "They always do." Jax rose slowly, looking at him with a steady calm that carried weight. "Then we'll be waiting." The camera would fade out on the image of 12 bikes forming a half circle around the boy and his injured father, engines low, rain falling, headlights glowing like halos. The road angels had done more than stop a fight. They'd stepped between evil and innocence, and that night, the woods remembered it. The waiting room smelled like old coffee and disinfectant. Rain still streaked the hospital windows, tracing slow rivers down the glass. Eli sat curled in a plastic chair, a blanket around his shoulders. His sneaker tapped against the floor in nervous rhythm. Across from him, Jack stood with his arms folded, jaw tight. The rest of the crew sat scattered, boots muddy, jackets damp, silence hanging thick between them. A nurse finally appeared. "He's stable," she said gently. "Head injury, broken ribs, but he's lucky to be alive." Eli let out a sound halfway between a sob and a laugh. "Can I see him?" "Just for a minute," she replied. Jax watched as the boy followed her down the hall. His steps were small, hesitant, the kind that come from too many shocks in one night. Leon leaned forward in his chair. "You think the dad's gonna pull through?" "He's got fight in him," Jack said. "But fight's not free." Leon nodded, rubbing his temples. "What about the guy we found? Curtis?" "Sheriff's got him in holding," Jax replied. "Said he's been running with a debt crew out of Asheville. Muscle for small-time collectors. He turned himself in, more or less." "Guess guilt got him faster than we did," Leon muttered. Jax's gaze stayed fixed on the hallway where Eli disappeared. Maybe. Or maybe he saw what real men look like for the first time in years. Outside, thunder rolled one last time, distant, like a memory fading. Eli stood by his father's bed, fingers gripping the rail. The machines beeped, steady, calm. His father's face was pale, wrapped in gauze. "Dad?" Eli whispered. No response. Just the rise and fall of his chest. Eli's voice cracked. "I told you we shouldn't have gone to that guy. I told you." From the doorway, Jax's quiet baritone answered. "You saved him, son." Eli turned, eyes rimmed red. "I didn't." "You did." Jax stepped closer. "No, you ran for help. You made noise when most would have frozen. That takes guts." The boy swallowed hard. "They said we owed too much, that we had to pay or else—" "Your dad made a bad deal," Jack said gently. "But that doesn't make him a bad man." Eli looked down. "He just wanted to keep our house." Jax's voice softened. "Then maybe tonight's your second chance to build something better. One step at a time." By morning, the hospital parking lot shimmered with puddles. The storm had passed. A small crowd of locals gathered outside, folks who'd heard what happened. An old pastor, a waitress from the diner up the road. Even the sheriff himself, gray-haired and stoic, shaking Jax's hand. "Word travels fast," Leon said under his breath. "Good deeds always do," Jax replied. The sheriff sighed. "Curtis is talking. Said the outfit he worked for has been scamming families across 3 counties, blackmail, loan traps, intimidation. Looks like you boys kicked open a hornet's nest." Jax tilted his head slightly. "Good. About time someone did." The sheriff chuckled. "Funny thing, folks usually see bikers and assume the trouble's riding in. This time trouble ran out." Leon grinned. "Guess we're rewriting stereotypes, one miracle at a time." Jax smirked. "We're not saints, Sheriff. Just men who remember what it's like to be scared and alone." Later that afternoon, Eli came outside. His father was still unconscious, but improving. He walked up to Jax, clutching something small in his hand, a worn leather patch. "My dad used to ride," he said quietly. "Before I was born. He kept this in his toolbox." Jax took the patch. It was faded, the word Liberty barely visible. "He said one day he'd fix his bike and ride again," Eli continued. "Said freedom feels like wind and noise." Jax studied the patch for a moment, then crouched to meet the boy's eyes. "Your old man sounds like one of us." Eli nodded. "Can I keep it?" Jax smiled. "You should. Remind yourself what he was fighting for." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small piece of silver metal, a charm shaped like a wing. "This one's for you," Jack said. "We give 'em to folks who make it through hell and keep walking." Eli turned it over in his hand. The word engraved along the edge shimmered in the weak sunlight. "Courage means you earned your place in the world tonight," Jack said softly. "Don't forget that." Eli's throat worked as he whispered, "Thank you." Jax put a hand on his shoulder. "You'll do fine, kid. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "When your old man wakes up, tell him the road angels said he's still got a road to ride, just not alone anymore." As the bikes roared back to life one by one, the townsfolk watched in quiet awe. No sirens, no headlines, just 12 riders fading into the horizon, rain clouds parting above them. And there, on the hospital steps, a boy held a silver wing. In his hand, feeling the first warmth of sunrise after a night that could have ended in darkness. 3 days later, the sun came back to Highway 47. The rain had washed away the wreckage, but not the questions. The road angels didn't move on. Not this time, they stayed. Camped out near the diner off County Road 9, the kind of place that still smelled like bacon grease and fresh coffee. Their bikes lined the lot like sleeping giants, chrome glinting under morning light. Inside, Jack sat at a corner booth with Leon, Big Mike, and a laptop that looked like it had seen a few too many rides. Across the table, Sheriff Dalton nursed a mug of coffee, watching them carefully. "So let me get this straight," he said slowly. "You think that wreck wasn't an accident?" Jax leaned back, expression unreadable. "No, Sheriff. I think it was a message." Leon flipped the laptop toward him. "That Curtis fella? He wasn't just collecting debts. He was keeping records. Bank transfers, fake loan contracts, threats sent by burner phones. Whole operation's bigger than it looks." The sheriff squinted at the screen. "You telling me these guys are laundering money through family loans?" "Not just that," Jack said. "They target folks already desperate. Single parents, veterans, small business owners. Promise quick cash, then squeeze them dry. When someone can't pay, they make an example out of them." Big Mike crossed his arms. "Like Eli's dad." The sheriff sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Damn. I've been in law enforcement 30 years, and somehow the devils keep finding new ways to wear human skin." Jax's voice dropped low. "We've seen it too. That's why we don't just ride anymore. We fix what others overlook." That evening, Jax found Eli sitting outside the hospital again, drawing in a worn sketchbook. The boy's eyes looked clearer now, less haunted, more curious. "You draw?" Jax asked. Eli nodded. "Yeah, helps me think." Jax sat beside him on the bench. "Your dad's still holding on strong." Eli looked up. "The nurse said he might wake up tomorrow." "Good." Jax paused. "When he does, I need you to tell him something important." "What's that?" "That the people who hurt him, they're not ghosts. They bleed like anyone else, and we're making sure they don't hurt anyone else again." Eli's eyes widened. "You're going after them?" Jack smiled faintly. "We're just collecting debts, the right way." By nightfall, the road angels rolled out. Headlights sliced through the darkness, 12 beams converging on a warehouse at the edge of town. It looked abandoned. Tin roof sagging, for lease sign rusted. But the faint hum of a generator betrayed life inside. Leon parked first, scanning the lot. "Looks quiet." "Too quiet," Big Mike muttered. Jax motioned 2 men toward the back. He and Leon approached the front door, footsteps silent on wet gravel. He didn't knock, just pushed. The door creaked open to reveal a cluttered office space. Paperwork, stacks of fake loan forms, a whiteboard covered in names and amounts. A single computer screen glowed in the corner. Leon whistled low. "Looks like a confession." "Take photos," Jax said. "Everything." A sudden noise from the next room. Boots scuffing on concrete. Jax froze, hand on his sidearm. A man stepped into view, young, twitchy, armed. "Don't move," he barked. "You ain't supposed to be here." Leon raised his hands, smirking. "Easy, cowboy. We're just looking for the truth." The man's gun trembled. "You cops?" "Worse," Jack said softly. "We're witnesses. Before the man could react, Big Mike appeared behind him, one arm snapping forward, disarming him with practiced precision. The gun clattered to the floor. Jax picked it up and unloaded it calmly. "Nobody needs to get hurt. Just tell me where the files go." The man hesitated. "You don't understand. They'll kill me." "Not if we get there first," Jax said. An hour later, the sheriff's cruisers rolled up, lights flashing in the darkness. Jack stood beside his bike as officers swarmed the warehouse, collecting hard drives, ledgers, and documents. The sheriff looked stunned. "You boys just did 3 weeks' worth of police work in one night." Jack shrugged. "Sometimes justice needs a different kind of engine." Leon grinned. "One that doesn't wait for paperwork." Dalton chuckled, shaking his head. "You know, Mercer, for outlaws, you've got a funny way of saving people." Jack smiled faintly. "Maybe we just remember what it's like to be saved." By dawn, the warehouse was sealed off. The debt ring was finished. Families across 3 counties would soon get calls saying their debts were wiped clean, their names cleared. But Jax wasn't celebrating. He stood alone beside his bike, staring toward the sunrise. The light broke through the trees, golden and quiet. The kind of morning that felt like forgiveness. Leon walked up behind him. "You good?" "Yeah," Jax said after a moment. "Just thinking about that kid. What about him?" Jack smiled faintly. "He reminds me of me, back when I thought the world was just roads and noise, before I learned what freedom really meant." Leon chuckled. "You getting sentimental on me?" "Maybe," Jack said, starting his engine. "But I'll take sentimental over lost any day." As the bikes pulled away, the first rays of morning touched the silver wing charm in Jax's jacket pocket, a spare, identical to the one he'd given Eli. It caught the light like a promise. 3 mornings later, a small miracle happened. Eli's father opened his eyes. It happened just before sunrise, the pale light touching the hospital blinds, the machines beeping in a gentle rhythm. Eli had fallen asleep in the chair beside his bed, sketchbook in his lap, pencil still clutched between his fingers. The man's voice, hoarse but steady, whispered, "Eli?" The boy's head snapped up. For a second, he just stared, like he was afraid to believe it. Then the tears came fast, unfiltered, full of every fear and prayer he'd held for days. "Dad! You're awake!" The nurses rushed in. Calls were made, monitors checked, but all Eli saw was the faint, tired smile on his father's face. You saved me, didn't you?" his father asked weakly. Eli shook his head. "No, the bikers did. The road angels." His father frowned, half smiling. "Bikers?" "Yeah, they found us." "Helped you. Stopped the bad guys." The man blinked, eyes glistening. "Guess angels really do ride Harleys." That afternoon, the road angels rolled back into town. No noise this time, no formation. Just quiet engines and calm faces. They parked outside the hospital and waited under the shade of an old oak. Jax didn't text ahead. He didn't call. He just waited, like he always did, patient and steady as the road itself. A nurse came out first, smiling. "He's awake. He's asking for you." Jax nodded once, then followed her inside. When he stepped into the room, Eli's father looked smaller, thinner, but alive. The machines hummed softly. Eli stood nearby, proud and protective. "Mr. Mercer," the man said, voice gravelly. "Don't know how to thank you." Jack shook his head. "Don't, just get better. The world still needs men like you raising boys like him." Eli smiled shyly. "Dad says he wants to meet the whole crew." Jax's mouth twitched into a half smile. "We don't usually do hospital visits. But for you, we'll make an exception." He pulled a small object from his pocket. The twin of the charm he'd given Eli. A silver wing, polished to a soft gleam. "This was yours before it was his," Jax said, handing it to the father. "He dropped it the night we found him. Figured you might want it back." The man turned the charm over in his hand, tracing the engraved word. Freedom. He looked up at Jax. "You believe in that?" Jax's voice was quiet. "I try to earn it." Outside, the rest of the road angels waited by their bikes. When Jax stepped out, Leon gave him that familiar questioning look, the one that said, "Did we do right by them?" Jax just nodded once. "Yeah, we did." The men mounted their bikes, engines growling low. But before they rode off, Eli ran outside, waving his arms. "Wait!" They all stopped. Jax turned his head. Eli jogged up, holding his sketchbook. "I drew something for you guys." He flipped it open. Pencil lines, rough but full of heart. 12 bikers on the highway at sunset, their silhouettes stretching toward the horizon. And under it, in shaky handwriting, "The day angels rode the road." Leon blinked fast, pretending to clear dust from his eyes. Big Mike coughed into his fist. Jack smiled softly. "You got talent, kid," Eli grinned. "Can I ride with you one day?" Jax chuckled. "Maybe when your feet reach the pedals." Eli's laughter carried through the air, the kind that makes the world feel lighter. That evening, the road angels rode west. The highway glowed under the fading sun, orange and gold melting into dusk. They didn't talk much. They never needed to. Every man carried something different from that week. Redemption, memory, purpose. But they all carried one thing the same: peace. As they crested the last hill, the horizon opened wide. Endless road, endless sky. The storm was long gone. The air smelled clean, like new beginnings. Jax reached into his pocket and felt the last wing charm, the spare one he hadn't yet given away. He thought of Eli, of the boy's laughter, of the man who got a second chance to see his son grow up. Maybe this charm would find another lost soul one day. Maybe it was never meant to stay with him. Behind them, the town lights flickered like fireflies. Ahead, the world stretched out, full of roads, full of stories waiting to be rewritten. Leon rode up beside him. "You think we'll ever run out of folks to help?" Jack smirked. "Not in this world." "Good," Leon said. "'Cause I don't plan on retiring." Jax laughed quietly. "None of us do." The road hummed beneath them, alive and endless. Spring came early that year. The snow melted from the ditches, leaving the grass soft and green again. The forest, once silent, once haunted, hummed with the sound of new life. The wreck was gone now. What remained of the truck had been hauled out months ago, the trees cleared, the road repaired. To anyone passing by, Highway 47 looked ordinary again. But Eli and his father knew better. Every Sunday morning, they drove that stretch in their rebuilt pickup. Slow, quiet, respectful. They always stopped at the same mile marker. The boy would step out, kneel beside a small patch of earth, and place a silver wing charm on a rock. "Thank you," he'd whisper, voice carried off by the wind. Then they'd drive home, to the diner his father had rebuilt. Walls lined with black and white photos of the people who'd helped them get back up. Right above the counter, framed in glass, hung one of Eli's sketches. 12 riders in leather, headlights blazing through a storm. Below it, a hand-carved sign read, "The Road Angels, Freedom Rides On." It was one of those sketches that made its way across the internet months later, shared, reposted, talked about. A local paper picked it up, then a radio host. And one night, deep in a desert miles away, a man sitting by a campfire scrolled across that story on his phone. Jax Mercer. He didn't smile often, but this time he did. He leaned back on his saddlebag, the firelight flickering across his face. Leon was across from him, tossing pebbles into the flames. "Something funny?" he asked. Jax turned his screen so Leon could see the headline, "Boy honors biker gang that saved his father. They were angels on wheels." Leon snorted. "Biker gang, huh? Guess they still don't know the difference." Jax chuckled quietly. "Let 'em think what they want." He looked up at the stars, wide, scattered, endless. The fire crackled softly, the night wind carrying the scent of sage and freedom. After a long silence, he murmured, "We did good, Leon." Leon nodded. "Yeah, but you know how it goes." He smirked, kicking dirt into the fire. "There's always another road, another call." Jax glanced at the horizon, where the highway cut through the desert, gleaming silver under the moonlight. "Then we ride," he said. Before dawn, 12 engines roared to life. The sound wasn't loud, and it was steady like a heartbeat. Dust kicked up behind them as the road angels rolled out, headlights slicing through the dark. As the miles blurred away, Jax's mind drifted, not to the pain or the past, but to the small, fragile moments that made it all worth it. A boy's trembling voice in the rain, a man opening his eyes to see his son again, a sketch hanging above a diner counter in a town that would never forget. Freedom wasn't just the open road. It was this, leaving the world better than you found it, 1 mile at a time. By sunrise, the desert turned gold. The riders stretched across the horizon, long shadows painted on the asphalt. The lead bike caught the first light, the silver wings on Jax's vest flashing bright as daybreak. He lifted a hand, signaling the others forward. And as they rode into the dawn, their engines faded into a single, steady rhythm, the sound of freedom riding on. If this story reminded you that strength isn't measured by power, but by how far you'll go to protect someone who can't fight alone, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, so you never miss our next story of courage and redemption. Have you ever seen someone judged for how they look, before anyone even stopped to hear their truth? Tell us your story in the comments below. Your words might inspire our next tale of justice on the open road. And for those who watched closely, did you catch the moment at minute 7:18 when Jax rests his glove on the boy's shoulder but quietly slips something into his pocket before walking away? That single gesture changes everything about how you see the ending. Watch again and tell us what you think he gave the boy, because in the world of the road angels, every act of kindness leaves a clue.